I caught my mom being intimate with my husband, and now she's pregnant with his child. I exposed them to the entire family, and my now ex-husband moved in to live with her. My 40 female parents, dad 63 male and mom 60 female, have been married for 43 years. I have 6 siblings, 42 female, 38 female, 34 female, 20 male, 20 male, 18 male. I've been with my husband, 39 male, since we were 15. I got pregnant at 17 and we moved in with my parents. I gave birth to my now 22-year-old daughter. We got married at 18 shortly after. My dad's father passed away shortly after our wedding and left his ranch-style house to my father. My grandparents built a house next door to my parents when they retired. My parents decided to let us live in this house and told us this would be my inheritance. My husband and I had no issues with this. We went on to have a 20 male, 14 female, 5 female, and I'm currently 7 months pregnant with my last child, a boy, due in April. I thought I had a good marriage. We were intimate more than twice a week, we went on date nights, we bought each other gifts, we didn't fight. My entire world was shattered on New Year's Eve when I returned early from a girls' trip I had taken with some friends. I walked into my bedroom to find my mom being intimate with my husband. My mother screamed at me to get out of their bedroom, which really shook me up even more. Unfortunately, my oldest daughter was also home in her bedroom across the house getting ready for a party. She ran out and witnessed my all but a bedsheet naked mother run out of our house next door to her house and slam the door. My daughter was devastated and went to my sister's house. I asked her not to say anything until I first talked to my husband. I asked him for the truth. He told me that my mom seduced him when we were 18 and living in their house. They've been having unprotected intimacy at least once a month for longer than we were married. I ran the math and was horrified because the timeline meant my twin brothers and youngest brother could be my husband's. I immediately called my dad and told him to come to my house without my mom. I made my husband confess, and my dad was devastated. He and my mom were high school sweethearts, too. Needless to say, we could hear my mother screaming from her house when he confronted her. I then told my older sister, and she and I decided to have her throw a party for the whole extended family, and we invited my ex's family as well. At the party, I had my 22 female daughter take all the kids to our basement and put on a movie, leaving only the adult children and siblings, and I told them exactly what they'd been doing. Most of the family is on my side, except my 3 youngest siblings, 38 female sister, ex's entire family. They all said that I'm an a-hole for dropping this publicly. Word got out, and my mom's best friend, who is in leadership at my mom's church, my childhood church, called me to verify. My mom has since been let go as the children's pastor there, and she claims I've essentially ruined her reputation and life. My dad kicked her out, and she's now living with my 38 female sister. And lastly, my dad insisted on a DNA test for the 3 youngest boys before he'd consider anything to do with their marriage. The twins are my husband's bio children. I've since kicked him out, and he's living with his parents. My father and I are discussing me moving into his much larger house and him selling my grandfather's house and him giving me the money to buy a new house somewhere else to get rid of the memories. My husband is appalled and furious that I proved he actually is about to have 7 kids instead of 5, that I'm going to be taking half his business away from him. My husband started his own HVAC company a few years back, and for the first 5 years, I helped him get it set up, ran the office completely, and took time away from my teaching career to help him get this established. In my state, all marital assets, including businesses, are split 50-50. Since the house was still in my father's name, my husband will get no money from the sale, nor will my mother, since inherited assets are not subject to be split in divorces. My mother is also likely to not get any alimony, as our state is not a no-fault divorce state. I'm now over a month removed, still extremely bitter and angry at my mother, especially at her hypocrisy of calling me a hussy and shaming my family, when she's done much worse. I also despise my ex with everything within me now, as he was intimate with both my mom and me. in some instances coming to our bed minutes later. He got my mother pregnant less than a week after getting me pregnant, and while I thought it was so cute and fun that I shared a pregnancy experience with my mom, she was carrying my children's half-siblings. He's broken all trust I had in men and being faithful. I've already procured a good lawyer from the firm that helped us in financial matters for both me and my dad is helping pay for it. My twin brothers, one of my sisters, and my entire ex's family have gone no contact with me and my minor children. And my children have essentially lost all of their grandparents but my dad, 2 uncles, and an aunt on my side, and my husband's 3 brothers due to this mess. I've also developed ulcers and digestive issues because of this. So I'm visiting the doctor soon, and I've been in therapy since the first week of January. I've offered this for my 2 adult children if they need family therapy with all of us, but they're doing individual therapy right now. My 14-year-old knows that we're getting divorced and why, and she's so angry at her dad that I struggle sending her to his house on the weekends. I feel like she's old enough to make a decision on that, but I don't want to damage her relationship with her dad. I've told all my kids it's okay to love their dad, even if he hurt me, but the oldest 2 have cut him off 100%. I won't tell my youngest 2 until they're teens why we got divorced, and everyone else has agreed to not spill anything until they're old enough to understand. As for how I had no idea this affair was ongoing, my husband confirmed to me that they would have intimacy at my mom's office at church, in their cars, at a motel, and when we built the business, they started having it routinely in his office once I went back to teaching. They also had it in our houses, too, when my father would go away on business trips or I'd be out of town. It was pure coincidence that I came home a day early from a trip because I was uncomfortable from being nearly 7 months pregnant and just wanted my own bed for me to find out. Knowing they'd be carrying on this full-blown affair still if I hadn't caught them is what I'm still upset about. The fact that the grandmother and father of my children cared so little about destroying our families is what I can't get past. What's hardest for me is that my own mother would do this to me and would continue to do this for years and not caring when it all blew up in her face that she would be destroying her entire family. Edit. Also, to add insult to injury, my husband confirmed in one of our mediated conversations the affair started when I apparently made him angry. He didn't tell me and instead vented to my mom when they were alone. She comforted him and they had intimacy. He loved it and then pursued her after that. He said he would have divorced me, but knew he'd get cut off from her, and she was so much better at intimacy than me, so stuck it out with me. He told me I was a placeholder. Of all the betrayal and low blows, that statement is what keeps me up at night. Update. I had a phone conversation with my aunt today, my egg donor's sister, and she told me that there's a family history of cheating in our family on their side of the family. My grandma cheated on my grandpa for years, but they reconciled. My aunt herself had multiple emotional affairs, but is still married to my uncle. She tried blaming genetics on my mom's affair. I laughed out loud at the absurdity of that attempt to justify her affair, and my aunt is now mad at me for not hearing my egg donor out in her explanations for cheating. My dad and lawyer both say I should hear her out, so I'm still considering doing it right before we meet in early March to establish custody. Edit. I should mention that I asked my aunt if my mama inherited the party girl gene, which child did she pass it on to, and how did my grandma manage to pass it on to both her daughters? So that's probably why she's mad in retrospect. I've honestly lost all sympathy for cheaters after this. Update 2. I met with my egg donor, dad, and our lawyers last evening. Essentially, my egg donor said she knew it was wrong, but enjoyed the attention. The intimacy was great, and she enjoyed the thrill of it. She kept sleeping with my dad because she enjoyed their financial stability and carefree life and wanted to stay married. She purposely slept with him after each intimate encounter with my ex to ensure if she got pregnant, she could pass the child off. She also admitted to enjoying the knowledge that my ex enjoyed intimacy with her more than me. She then said that she's moving in with my ex to his new place and that she invited the boys to live with them. The twins have visited once since the affair went public and told her they don't like my ex and refuse to treat him like he's their father. She said eventually they'll come around once she's married to my ex, and then she'll have her family back. I laughed out loud and told her she was delusional and needed psychiatric help. Then I told her I would be taking out an order of protection against her so she'd have no access to my minor children. She called me a jealous and ungrateful cow for not appreciating that she didn't unlive me in the womb and let me live. She said I should be happy that they didn't kick me out when I came home knocked up. She even had the nerve to say I should be thankful she kept my husband happy when I couldn't, so he didn't divorce me and leave me a broken and damaged single mother. She then told my dad she suffered from postpartum depression after my birth, and my dad ignored it and made her feel alone, so she felt justified in hating me and to have affairs. She admitted to having multiple affairs from 6 months after I was born until New Year's Eve, and said she'd still be doing it if I hadn't ruined everything. So my 38 female sister and 34 female sister may not be my dad's either. My dad is even more heartbroken and angry, but we did have both our lawyers present and we got it on record. My dad has already reached out to my siblings, but to no one's surprise, I guess my 38 female sister already knew it was a possibility because my mom told her about both affairs when the twins were born, and she knew they might not be my dad's and kept it from us. My dad is devastated by that, even more than losing his relationship with my mom. I'm not sure their relationship will ever recover. I genuinely have no clue what is wrong with my 38 female sister. My 34 female sister doesn't want a paternity test and said our dad will always be her dad. My dad is fine with that. I sent a message to my ex through my lawyer that I'll be filing an order of protection tomorrow so that my kids won't have to go to my ex's house if my mother is there. Neither one has even attempted to find new housing either, so I guess she's planning to move into my ex-in-law's house? I really don't want my kids around that mess. He has yet to respond, but at this point, I really don't care what he wants. P.S. My family knows about the social media posts, as do the lawyers. But my ex and egg donor have zero chance of a good outcome in the divorce, so I'm going to be petty and enjoy their anger about being exposed, so I'm leaving it up. They can stew in their filth and know that not only does our town think they're terrible, so does the world. And I have permission from my younger sister to share what happened last night. I don't really care what my 38 female sister thinks. My hag of a stepmom gave away my PlayStation 4 while I was away at college. So I rented out her house while she was on her honeymoon with her newest husband. I've been reading a lot of forum posts lately, especially entitled Parents, but made a new account when I came across this page. I never thought I'd actually try to contribute something. Until now, the forums have just been my guilty morning coffee read. So here goes. I'm an only son. My mom perished of ovarian cancer at only 55 5 years ago. It broke my dad's heart. They had been together since college and were the same age, with my dad being a month older. I'm 22 and I'm about to graduate college with my degree in chemistry when the main events start to occur. I went to college on a full-ride scholarship. This is important later. My dad met my now stepmom when she was my mom's nurse at the hospital where she spent her final days. My stepmom, Grace, played all the right notes to gain my dad's trust. She was empathetic to him, nurturing, comforting after my mom passed. I was 17 and old enough to sense that she was just trying to weasel her way into getting my dad's resources. But it was up to my dad if he wanted to be in a relationship with her. I was in my final year of public school and had just won a scholarship to attend college out of the country the following year. My dad mourned my mom for a year, and that whole time Grace would check in on him by phone every month or so, in my opinion, to scope out the possibility of sinking her hooks in him. After a year passed, Grace took the gloves off and went hard after my dad. Grace was only 40 when she and my dad started seeing each other. I don't like her, but at the same time, my dad at least didn't seem so depressed anymore, so I tried to be less pessimistic about her and gave her the benefit of the doubt. In my gut, I didn't trust her though. But we are Scandinavian. And at least in my family, the son does not tell the father what to do or even offer any opinion. Grace is from the Czech Republic, if you're wondering. My father was a very successful banker during his career and amassed quite a portfolio of wealth. I'll spare you the details, but after 6 months of dating, Grace and my father got married. My dad never really got over my mom, though, and he was getting weaker and weaker, even though he was only 57. Since his health was fading, he called me to him and asked me point blank, "Boy, what do you need to set you up in this life?" I told him I don't need anything. I'm a man and can take care of myself. But what are you even talking about, Dad? You're going to be around for decades yet. I did remind him that he had living sisters with children, my aunts and cousins. I also reminded him that I had a full scholarship to college, so don't worry about giving me any cash. He was unalive only a year later at 59. I, of course, have seen lots of Hollywood movies, so I consider the conspiracy theory that maybe my dad's nurse wife poisoned him and made him sign over all his money to her. But I really honestly don't think that's what happened. Other relatives don't like Grace either, but they knew my dad was totally in love with my mom and that her passing utterly broke him. Well, long story short, my dad bequeathed his 5-bedroom house to me, even though I wasn't expecting it and didn't ask for it. He gave a small endowment to each of his sisters and their children. He left about 80% of all his existing money to Grace, which amounted to several hundreds of thousands of dollars. My dad ignored me because he's generous to a fault and still gave me several tens of thousands of dollars, which were of course very useful to me. Grace tried to put on a friendly front, but I could tell she was angry as hell that she didn't get my dad's house too. That belonged to me, and I had the legal papers to prove it. She was especially mad because we live in an extremely upscale and trendy location, and houses are hard to come by and easily sold for massive profit. During the first few months after my dad's passing, I had the nauseating, creepy experience of knowing that Grace was trying to feel me out to see if I might be into a little relationship with her. Gross. She still stayed at the house, though, because over the last 3 years she had gotten used to living there and acted like she owned it. And even though I officially owned it, I was always away at college and only visited my dad's old house once every couple of months. And even then, it wasn't to see Grace, but to see my cousins who lived just a few miles away. I downplayed the fact that it was really my house. And over the months, I think Grace gradually forgot that she really had no legal right to the house. She probably believed that sooner or later, because I never asked her for any of the hundreds of thousands of my dad's dollars that she now had, that I was somehow independently wealthy and would just give up my house to her. I knew I'd eventually hydrogen bomb this shrew when she started dating some new guy only 5 months after my dad was in the ground. And one time when I came home from college after graduating, she and her new boyfriend, some sleazy-looking D-bag named Ivan, who was only a few years older than me, were acting like I was a guest in my own house, and that they owned it. I played along. Grace told me she gave away my PlayStation 4 to Ivan's cousin because I'm too old to play video games. I don't even know this mother lover, and you give him my PS4 to give away to some other trash who I also don't know? I quickly changed all my network passwords that same day. I smiled, but I knew what I had to do eventually. She also said that she and Ivan were getting married because I just can't mourn your father forever. I have to move on with my life. I tell her that I graduated college and already secured employment with a local firm and will soon find a new place to live. She looks thrilled, especially the part where it looks like I'll soon have a new place to live. Then, in a patronizing way, she tells me, "You always have a place at our house, though. You're welcome to stay whenever you please." Thanks, Grace. Really generous of you. What I really say is that I'll probably have a new place in 3 months. She said that's wonderful because she intends to go to her homeland to have a wedding with Ivan and afterwards have her honeymoon. She assures me it's a local affair. Otherwise, I'd invite you, honey. And anyway, I know you're so busy. I congratulate her. She asks me if I can watch the house for her. Watch my own house? Sure. What I really say is, of course, I will take care of the house. I am careful not to say, your house. She and her D-bag fiancé, who I am 100% sure is only there for Grace's money, go on their trip, and I immediately put out advertisements in rental websites offering to lease my house. I hire movers and have all of Grace's furniture and possessions boxed up and put into a storage rental facility. I retain all of my parents' furniture that they had before my dad met Grace. Locks? Changed. All of them. Within days, I am inundated with dozens of inquiries regarding my amazing furnished house with fantastic views. I rent it to a wonderful young family, a barrister and his schoolteacher wife and their 2 preteen children. They pay me their first and last month's rent and sign a lease for a year. I warn them about my crazy stepmom who thinks this is her house, but I present them with contact information to my lawyer, the same lawyer my dad retained in case they need any assurance that I'm on the level. I also give my lawyer the information about the storage facility, including the fact that I generously paid 4 months of storage in advance, which is a whole month longer than Grace's Czech honeymoon adventure. I then found a great apartment in the city near my new place of work. There, I met a woman in a restaurant I frequent at night after a long workday. We've been dating 6 months now and are engaged to be married. Grace, of course, tried to shriek and cause trouble when she realized she got kicked out of my house, but my lawyer quickly shut her mouth without me having to ever speak to her garbage face again. From what I hear, her and her trash husband left the country, and I assume they're blowing through my dad's money and will soon be broke like chavs usually become when they taste a little bit of what they think is the good life. So maybe Grace will go and try to exploit some other lonely man into giving her his money. Speaking of money, the house that I rent out is generating so much money that I not only am able to help pay for my cousin's college, but I moved into a larger apartment of my own, together with my fiancé. I love my job, but really, I could survive solely on renting my dad's old house. And to think, if Grace had only been cooler or nicer, I might have let her stay at the house, just to be a good sport. And definitely if she stayed the hell out of my room. But no, she had to act all proprietary. So I had to make her homeless as a wedding gift. Postscript. I bought another PS4, even though I didn't use my old one that much. It didn't matter. It wasn't for Grace to give away. You don't give away other people's things. You give away your own things, which is why I chose to kick Grace out of my house. Because it's mine, and I decide who stays there.